Hello and welcome to your show, Momfit with Joe Peters. I am Joe Peters, your host, and I am super excited to have you all tuning in around the world. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the H.E.R Network on the single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Single TV app in the respective app stores in iOS and Android devices. The app is free. So if you are downloading the app, make sure to rate us and leave us a comment. And also, Single TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all smart TVs since 2016. And if you are new to Momfit, welcome. This is a virtual community of badass moms, and our mission is to help you to win the marathon of motherhood without burnout. So, if you have questions, problems, challenges, if you are concerned about something in your journey as a mom, please believe me, you are not alone. You are not the only one that is dealing with that. The thing is, we sometimes don't talk much about it, but go and follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Joe Unicorn Coach, like says in the screen. I handle my own social media. So I would love to hear from you what topics you want to hear in the show, what kind of things you need help with. And then if I cannot help you, I will have an amazing guest like Casey that come and help us because it requires a village, like they say. So I am super excited to be today with Casey. We are going to be talking about one of the biggest challenges for us moms, and that is making a priority of our self care and what is the impact of not doing it. And
Mm,
I will tell you that Casey is a three-time survivor of acute lymphoblastic leukemia and strokes. Casey is a trauma informed cancer coach and use somatic movement and breath work with survivors so they can heal and be able to reclaim their life in a healthy, empowered way and move away from that diagnosis of I am a cancer patient or I have cancer. So they can heal physically, mentally, and emotionally and not live on fear of what if that come back. She is also the author of Finding Your Way Back to Heart Center, Cancer Treatment Ending Now. Now what? And she's a personal trainer, yoga instructor, yoga for oncology certified, yoga for trauma, and she is a nutritionist, somatic therapist. She's a full range of expertise and wisdom. And probably we are going to hear from her story just now that she did all of that in her own healing journey. So, Casey, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to have you here with us and share with us your wisdom. Before we go any further, I ask everybody to share their favorite phrase with me. Um, so yours were two. It says so many. You have so
yeah.
many, and the two that you like the most are we repeat while we don't repair,
Mhm.
and the caring of oneself is not a luxury, is a necessity. So let's go now open the show with why those were the two that you choose and what they mean to you.
So they mean a lot to me, both individually, because if we don't change the patterns, the habitual patterns that we are in, we will end up repeating what we don't repair, whether it's our mind, our body, all of it. So I think that it can be seen as a lot of work to start to change and break patterns, but ultimately you're going to suffer anyway. So, you get to choose your hard. Which hard do you want to do? This repeat the same same things over and over and over and over and over again, or learn the lesson and change the behavior, right? So that's why I chose that one, and that's so true, and I see it so prevalently in my earlier life, right? And then, I chose, the caring of oneself because we as women aren't really taught how to do that, number 1, and then number 2, like, all the societal messages that we've been given since birth is like, "Be the good girl, be the helper, please everyone else around you, make sure everyone's okay or comfortable or has all the things they want or need, and then you get to take care of yourself." Well, what? Like, that doesn't make sense. So, like, everyone else gets to do it, but we don't? Like, the messages don't make sense, and then as a result, we compromise our what we want, our health, our needs, our everything. Um, and that ends up sometimes with repression, suppression, and disease of the body.
Absolutely. What we don't heal, the body forces us to pay attention. And I was going to talk a little bit about your story and how you went from a diagnosis to a survivor to then start working with helping others.
So I was diagnosed at 31 with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, like you said, and um, it was intense. Like I was immediately hospitalized for 28 days. It's part of the protocol that I was on. They basically throw the kitchen sink of chemotherapy at you.
Mhm.
4 months into my journey, I ended up having a stroke because of the chemotherapy specifically, they think. And that was a whole 3, 4 weeks of recovery in a hospital, and then or no, I'm sorry, 8 weeks of 3 hours every single day for 5 days a week of outpatient rehab to learn how to use my entire left side, which was temporarily paralyzed. So then my journey is about 5 years in total. So my initial protocol was about 18 months. I finished my last chemotherapy. 7 weeks later, I relapsed the first time. And my medical team told me, your body's not responding to chemotherapy anymore. Want to try this immunotherapy or go on a clinical trial? So, after some debate back and forth, we decided to go on the immunotherapy because it didn't negate me from going on the clinical trial.
Mhm.
The immunotherapy failed. It basically sent me into cytokine release storm, which is where your body starts to attack itself from the inside out. We went on the clinical trial. I did all the testing and it got shut down right before I was supposed to start. I know, talk about, like, nerve-wracking and, like, your hope being stolen from you. So, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society conference for doctors had just ended, and my doctor brought back this piece of research that she had been doing for a cancer that wasn't mine and said, "Do you wanna try this?" And it was a different immunotherapy. Given what I had just gone through with one, I was, like, really not gung ho about trying this because I was like, "Am I gonna die, like, literally again?" So there was some debate. I don't know how many days I, like, thought about it, and I said, because I asked them, "Well, what other options do I have?" And they're like, "There's one other clinical trial going on right now at a neighboring hospital. You're on the wait list, but it doesn't guarantee that, you'll qualify if you get moved to the top, and they don't move you to the top, so you just wait." And I was like, "Well, what happens if I don't make it, like, to the top by the time, like, I'm too sick to do it?" They're like, "There's nothing we can do." And I was like, "Oh, great, awesome." So I'm waiting for the clinical trial, and I don't know how long the list is or any of the details because they don't share that with you. And then I'm, like, presented with this other option that doesn't sound great either, and I decided, after some thought, like, even if this doesn't work for me, if it helps someone and saves their life, why not? So we wrote a letter of compassion to the FDA and to the drug manufacturer, basically for compassionate care, like, "You're gonna die," other words in other words. And so we waited, and for, like, 2 months, I planned a funeral, had a really hard conversation, and then we got approved. I did 4 rounds of that immunotherapy. I went into a stem cell transplant, and then 6 months after my stem cell transplant, I relapsed again. This time my team was like, okay, we need to get you back into remission. We're going to do the immunotherapy and then another stem cell transplant. So we did the immunotherapy. I got into remission and they just said, we're going to wait. And I was like, I don't like this plan. And because they didn't know if this drug would work long-term remission or not, and they wanted to find out. And I was like, I don't like being this guinea pig, but okay. I don't want to go through another stem cell transplant because it's brutal. I'm like, so after about 6 months of just like waiting, going to the doctor every week and blood and platelets and all these things, they were like, I was like, do you think I'm okay? Like, that's literally what I asked. Do you think I'm okay? Do you think I can go live life? And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, how do you do that? They're like, eat right and exercise. I was like, that's not helpful. Which led me onto the journey of then figuring it out for myself, which as a byproduct, I now get to help so many women. And so many of the women I work with are moms, right? I didn't have that opportunity, unfortunately. But the women that I work with literally struggle with the caring of oneself. And I see it all the time. How do I make time? But my kid needs this. But my husband needs this. My partner needs this. And it's like, you can't pour from an empty cup.
I love that, and I think that your story is such a inspiring story into resilience and giving options and move on. Let's go and talk a little bit about why do you think that especially moms get that thought or get thought or brainwashed into their health is not as important as their children, and that they are less in the list and that they need to take care of everybody else, because I think that it starts there into that belief of my health is and my well-being matters. And I think that unfortunately take all of us to hear a story like yours, because I promise you that there will not be, I promise you that, especially if you're a mom and you get to a um, final diagnosis like that, like you are going to die, then that was going to become your priority, because then you are like, oh crap, I'm not going to be there for my kids. I'm not going to be there for their wedding. I'm not going to be there for their college graduation. So that, like you and me, we believe in this. It should not take us to get to the bottom to do that switch. So how we can start doing it preventively, and why do you think that is so hard initially to just adjust that priority and keep pouring into our cup, even with the kids, even with the family, even with the spouse?
I see it all the time and I hear statements like, well, I just want to make sure my kids are taken care of and they're happy. It's like, yes, they can be happy, but you can also take care of yourself in the meantime. Because let me tell you, a happy mom and a happy human, if they see that, that's better than you being miserable, going, are you okay? Are you happy? Like that doesn't help. I think that's part of the belief system of like my kids' happiness depends on me and how much I can give them. I think that's part of it. I think the other part is society, is the pressure to be not just the best mom, but the best coworker, the best partner, and have that burden solely on the woman and solely like this superhero woman image of doing it all and getting it done without like skipping a beat and like it's like, well, if you think about it back in the day, like women only had one priority in the 50s, like to raise children because a lot of women didn't have jobs. But now society is so different and we still have that same mentality of I have to take care of all the things and work a full-time job, and that leaves nothing for women to resource themselves. And so I think there's got to be a massive shift in general in the way in which, culturally speaking, women are treated and how the household is run as a whole.
And I think that is very easy. And I think that sometimes I start with us as females and as moms. And one thing that I will invite everybody to do is start complimenting moms with children when you see them, as you will compliment us, as you compliment dads with children. So
Right?
we see a dad in the grocery store with the children and we're like, oh my God, that's so sweet, you're so nice, you're such a good dad. We see 3 million moms and you're like, by default, like that is your job.
Yeah.
Or I see it all the time in the airports, like you see a dad traveling with their kids and it's like, oh my God, that's so good, you're such a good dad, that's amazing, how can I help you? And then we see one dad with one kid, and then we say all that, how can I help you, let me whatever, we go above and beyond our way to help that dad with their kid, because oh my God, he's a dad and it's such a nice thing that he's traveling along
Yeah.
with his kid. But we see a mom with 5 kids, and then we don't even acknowledge, we are just like, yeah, whatever. Actually, now that I'm talking to you, it's such a ingrained bias. Today at my gym, I had the thought, because I was at the end of the gym, at the end of the exercise, we have childcare, and then I normally do a plank after the gym. So I was doing my plank, everybody was left, and then there was one of the guys that I was working out actually had her daughter with him, his daughter with him. And then they did a plank together. And I went into, oh, that's so nice that they're doing a plank together. Like, that is what all the other moms do with their kids too. So I think that one of the things that that big change that you are inviting us to take, it starts with that. It start being aware of our own conscious bias, and start telling the moms, hey, amazing, you're doing an amazing job, holy cow, well done. So we can start normalizing that is not a default, that is actually something very special, because what you are saying, because now that is not the only thing that moms around the world do. So I love that.
Yeah. I think I think also, like, it's hard. I've talked to a lot of women, trust me, thousands, and it's hard for women to ask for help. They see it as weakness, and I'm like, that is, like, the bravest thing you could do is say, like, "I need help," or, "I need help, like, with shuttling the kids," or "Can you do this?" or "Would you be okay with that if you're going that way anyways?" And I think that also needs the rhetoric around asking for help needs to change a little bit. Like, I remember if I wanted to play sports and my parents couldn't drive me somewhere or get me somewhere, it was on me to figure it out. Whereas moms like are now like, I'll rearrange my entire schedule. I'll get you there. And it's like, well, the kid can take some responsibility. It's okay for them to ask her for a ride from a friend who's going to the same event.
And I think that the fear there again, I think that is into the cultural fear of shame of their mom is going to think that I'm a bad mom because my kid is asking them. So that means that I cannot do things for my own kid. And I think that is that part of, don't put it even into that way, is getting that community of talking like, hey, giving friends with the team players, and say moms, and say, okay, are we going to rotate this, how we're going to support each other.
Right.
And then I was it's funny what you were saying into asking for help, because um it is such a challenging thing. I was watching and I love this, and that is why this is such a passion for me, um to give this message with people like you aware. I was watching this TikTok of a lady that I love that is all about motherhood, and then she was doing like that, like she's playing two moms at a
Mm,
time. So one of them is a newborn mom and she's overwhelmed and she's tired, and then the friend come in and say like, hey, how's your sleep? And she's like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And then she's like, so what time is the hardest time? And then the poor newborn mom is like, midnight, and he cries for an hour and a half, and nothing that I do works. And then the friend is like, oh my God, that is rough. Mine was around 6 p.m., but oof, midnight, that's rough. Like, yeah. And then the mom was like, okay, I will see you at midnight tonight. And then the mom was like, what? no, you don't have to. And then she's like, I understand that I don't have to, but I want to. And then
Mhm.
we will run it by the year. I will show up here at 11:30, and then if you are overwhelmed and you want me to hold the baby crying while you just lay down in another bed, I will do that. If you are fine holding the baby, I will go and do laundry, do the dishes, do meal prep, but I will be there with you at the time that is being the roughest for you. And if that is at midnight, I'm gonna be there. And I
Ugh.
thought that that was so amazing, because that is the part of it requires a village. That is the part that what you are saying is so true. In the 50s, in the 40s, you didn't have to have that awareness because you live around your family. So you didn't need a friend to do that because you had your mom and your sister and your
Mhm.
cousin that were next door. So you can just even knock into the wall and they will hear and come. So we had that by default then, but now we are spread around the world. Now we need to step into that place of doing that for each other
Mhm.
without the fear of asking for help, without the fear of asking, ooh, um, and it's, yeah, it's how do you think that we can start working into getting comfortable asking for help and changing that concept of, ooh, I'm gonna be a bad mom? Because I promise you, even me with all the work, yesterday I had a crazy day, and I had to ask my in-laws to take my son to preschool in the morning,
Mhm.
and I felt the discomfort, and I felt like that, like,
Mm.
oh, I should be able to do it all. But then I was like, no, I'm not going to make my day even crazier than what it is. And they were happy to do it. But in your experience with your clients, what do you think that is that the path to start building that confidence of saying, I need help, and don't feel guilty about it, and saying, I need help, and that doesn't mean that I am a less of a good mom. That doesn't mean that I don't love my kids. That just means that I freaking need help.
How I kind of reframe it to a lot of the moms that I work with that their kids are have busier schedules like sports and things is you see another mom there and you go up to them and you say, "Hey, there's going to be times in your life when you're not going to be able to do it all. I'm going to have times in my life where I'm not going to be able to do it all. What if we make a deal with some of the other moms and we do a ride share when we can't all do it?" Kind of like a community within a community to help all of each other. So it creates less stress as a whole. Like, where maybe it's not every week, but maybe once a month, somebody takes the kids and make it like we're all helping each other instead of like, I'm asking you for help. How about we all do this together? Because we all know like shuttling kids back and forth in the car is like kind of the biggest time suck you can have as a parent being a taxi driver basically. And so like if we can all help each other just with that little example, if it saves 10-20 minutes, that's amazing. Like that's 10-20 minutes for a mom that they didn't have. So even if it rotates once a week, that's huge. You get more time back. Everyone wins. You're all going to the same place and similar, like it's not like you're going far if they're in the same like area. So why not make it easier for not just yourself but everyone there? And so I go approach it like a community instead of like I'm because it's not a weakness. You all are becoming better as it a result. You are spending time with the kids that your kid is spending time with in the car. You have them in one little confined space. And that's how you get to know your friends' kids, your kids' friends. So it's like there's so many benefits to it that I think we're also missing out on as a result. Like it's the only way I learned a lot about my friends' parents is being stuck in a car with them, right? But it was like eye-opening to see, oh, that parent does that for a living. Oh, this, oh, that. Oh, like it's it's such a community involvement if you're doing something for years too, such as like sports and things like that.
I love that, and I love that part of pairing up, so it's not as challenging. And then the reality is that I think that two points that then you made me think about. The first one is be completely honest and
Yeah.
be willing to be honest to say what are the things that you really enjoy and what are the things that you don't. Because if you are like me from Colombia and absolutely love soccer, then taking your kid to soccer will not be, it will be something enjoyable. You love watching them. So that's fine. But if taking it to something else is not, that is part of that guilt of saying, like, be completely honest. These things I like, these things I don't, and then focus on who can help you with the things that you don't enjoy with your child. And I don't know if you ever read the book Drop the Ball from Tiffany Duff.
Mm-mm.
She's amazing, and she talked about moms and women dropping the ball. And one of the things that she said is that, talking about that community, she said that she had to start finding that community, in the community where her neighbors. So
Mhm.
a good relationship with their neighbors and make sure that you understand that your neighbors are figures that can help at any point. Then the working mom friends, the stay home friend moms, because that is another one that I don't know if you are seeing with a lot of moms, but there is a lot of division. Like, we are the
Mhm.
working moms, and then you don't understand because you're a stay home mom, or we're a stay home and you don't understand. And actually she have something very amazing, and is when you bring them together, they can help each other a lot. Because then you have a stay-home mom that had a lot more room to help with things whenever you had a last minute meeting at work, and instead of feeling like the worst parent and let your kid waiting for you 45 minutes, you can take the phone and say, what are you doing? Can you give me a hand? And
Yeah.
they will be like, sure, because helping also fill their cup. Um,
Mhm.
so one of the biggest things that I always say in this show is, how we do anything is how we do everything. And I
Mhm.
want you to share a little bit, before we go back into the health, how taking care of ourselves is impacting the future of our kids.
So kids don't learn by what we say. They model behavior, right? So if our kids don't ever see us taking care of ourselves, whether it's through diet, exercise, or even just time to read a book for ourselves, they're not going to be able to know what that looks like and to do it for themselves. So, as moms, if we want to truly break these patterns and not repeat these same things with our daughters and our sons, then this is how we do it. We have to lead by example. And I have so many clients that start working out consistently and now their daughters see this, right? That changes their life hopefully in the long run. They may not be exercising with them now, but they're going to know like as they get older and have jobs and kids that they need to also take care of themselves. And they also need to put energy and effort towards prioritizing their health and their needs. And that is truly how I think we start to change the narrative of it, is doing it ourselves. It's really hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but finding 10, 20 minutes and showing the care of oneself.
I love that. And I love how we can move it into, I'm doing it not only for me, but also for them. So they don't struggle like me. And like, I know that you're big into this, into cutting those generational society patterns of, not because I learned this, I want to pass that to them. Now, Casey, I would love for you to talk a little bit. There are some moms that are working, that are watching us, that are talking into self care, and they are facing scary diagnoses.
Mhm.
Maybe cancer, maybe a stroke, maybe so many other things. How can you, as a mom, face those things and have the mind clarity to actually make it work? And what would be your advice as the expert onto this path of healing and recovery for any mom that is watching us right now and is dealing with a challenging diagnosis, with a scary diagnosis like the ones that you had, that may put in jeopardy the future of her being with her children?
Yeah, I think a lot of times if you get diagnosed with something so traumatic, it makes you slow down, number 1. It makes you prioritize your time and care for yourself, unfortunately. Um, and fortunately, but it is truly about taking it day by day, managing your own internal expectations and going like it's got to be enough, right? Asking for help, leaning on your community. I always say like it's not weakness, it's a sign of strength that you can call someone and say like I need meals for the week, I need help, like can you make a little bit extra for me and my kids, like especially the single moms out there, right? Like you need it more than ever. So, leaning on people and really diving into the community that you build around you, because we can't do it alone. It takes that old saying of like, it takes a village to raise a child is true. Like, there's a reason why that statement exists. But we are so often now in today's age segregated and doing it solo. No wonder moms are stressed out, burnt out, tired, exhausted, and don't have time for themselves. So it's really about slowing down, taking it one day at a time, reminding yourself that whatever gets done that day is got to be enough, and that's okay. And just letting the small little stuff of like, the dishes need to be done. Do they though? Do they? Like, we really need to ask ourselves, like, those questions in those times, and it's leaning on others to try to help us through it as well. Um, and then it's remembering why you're going through it, why you're doing it, right? You wanna see your kids graduate or whatever the milestone you put in front of you is, and just knowing that you're going to get there. It's it's that determination, that resiliency, because every woman that I've ever met is stronger than they think they are capable of. And trust me, you guys give birth to children. Like that's an amazing feat in of itself, like growing a child for 9 months and birthing it out. So if you can get through that, you can literally get through anything.
And that is a beautiful, beautiful message. And then is, I love that you bring the single moms, because I really don't know how they do it. That is about us, especially on those. I think there was so many things. I love how you bring back to what we were talking earlier in the show, and is, especially as moms, what how we can bring that awareness of, I choose to not wait until I have an ultimatum diagnosis to make priorities and slow down. Because we are hearing it from Casey. If you get the ultimatum, you are going to slow down. You are going to make different priorities. So why we cannot choose to not wait until we get there to actually do it, and do it more preventively. And I love asking for help. Now, Casey, with all the moms that you work with, um how is the process with communicating with the children? Because I can see a lot of moms is not only this worries about them and them not being there for their children, but do I tell them? Do I not tell
Mm.
them? I don't want to worry my kids. I will not say it. So, in your experience as a coach onto these things, what has been, in your experience, the best way to do it? And I know that there is not a cookie cutting one fits all, but what are some of the things that moms could evaluate and take in consideration when they are facing of, I'm not only have this diagnosed, but then I also have children that, if I'm having chemotherapy, are going to see me sick and are going to see me not feeling well. How the communication with the children and their community and their family work for their benefit.
I believe in transparency. I've had some women not tell their children. I've had women be very upfront with their children. I think, and the reason why I think total transparency is necessary is because children are a lot smarter than you think they are. You think you're hiding something, but they know. And they are very in tune with what you are thinking and feeling, whether you realize it or not. So I've had so many women who have kept it a secret until after the fact, and their children have gone, I thought something was wrong, or we knew something was wrong, or, saying statements like, but they didn't know. And I think leaving children in the dark to not understand the full capacity of of the disease, and that it's not a scary thing anymore, and that it's not it is life threatening, but it's not life ending anymore as much as it used to be. And that how technology has changed, and that, you know, you're going to have to change your lifestyle as a result, or at least you should be, and teaching your children why that's necessary to maybe start eating healthier, changing those habits, changing some of the things that you're doing, right? Like them understanding why you're doing it is huge, right? Like they know something's going on. I've seen it, I've heard it. I'm like, they mirror our neurons. We sync with them. They're attuned to us. And if you are anxious, your kid's going to be anxious. If you're scared, your kid's going to be scared. They might not know why. They might not understand that part of it, but they feel it. So I believe in total transparency, as scary as that conversation is.
And I think that also is a good thing to think about into what if I don't win this battle,
Right.
and then they get in the future questions and resentment, and I wish I knew, and I wish that you that she told me, and all of that. So I know that is a very challenging concept, but I think that that is why it's important that you work with experts like Casey, because we are going to say it over and over and over again, you are not alone, especially if you are facing something like that, a big diagnosis, or if you are facing struggles with self-care and preserving
Mhm.
yourself. You don't have to figure out by yourself. You can rely on people that at the moment had more tools, a different perspective, a different point of view that can help you to connect the dots. Now you touch a little bit on this, and I'm always fascinated about that topic, but you are being talking about changing lifestyles and doing things like exercise and eating healthy. Now, like we said, for sure after the fact, but on those two topics, and also in the self-care, what would be your recommendation for all the moms, of what that looks like of changing their lifestyle and eating healthier, or moving the body, or doing some self-care practices?
Right, and I think it's all depends on what the mom's goal is, but I do believe, like, our bodies were built specifically to move. We should be at incorporating some sort of movement in our life, whether it's walking or yoga or strength training or something. We need to be moving, so exercise is very important. Um, I think at least minimum 3 days a week, 20 minutes a day. If you can do more, it's always better. But again, it depends on what you're doing too. And then I think as far as eating healthy, it's eating as many whole grain, whole foods as possible. So like instead of processed foods, eating fruits and vegetables, right? Like eating things that are minimally processed, like fast food and things like that. Just cutting those out of your diet is going to be impactful to how you think and feel, right? Like garbage in makes you feel like garbage. So like if, limiting alcohol, all those things that are counterproductive to our health and can actually hurt our health is huge. Um, for that, I think everyone should be meditating a little bit. I think everyone should be journaling, because if you don't know how you're thinking and feeling every day, how are you going to change things? We have to change the conversation somehow in our heads. And if we don't know what we're thinking and feeling, we can't change anything. right? So we're just going to go on autopilot over and over again. So I think taking a little bit of time for yourself can make a huge impact for how you feel. And it doesn't need to be an hour or 2 hours. It can be 20 minutes, it can be 10 minutes. Just taking that time is huge.
And I love that. And I think that one of the biggest push-ups that we have is that I don't have time.
Mhm.
And I was actually watching something this week, and they was like, instead of saying I don't have time, try to say out loud, but I choose to not make that my priority, and
Mhm.
see how that feels. Because the reality is not that you don't have time, is that you don't have time for that. So if we are feeling that we don't have time, start thinking. One of my favorite things with my clients is the concept of every yes require a no.
Yes.
So if you are ending the day and the week and the month with a lot of no's, no time for workout, no time for eating well, no time for meal prep, no time for meditating, no time for journaling,
Yeah.
then that means that you are giving all your yeses to other people, and it's time to start doing some check balance. Okay, so because every yes require a no. So the reality is, for you to say yes to workout, you have to say no to something else. And it's about us to start being mindful about that. Sometimes that means no to scrolling on TikTok
Yeah.
and Facebook for 20 minutes. Or if you are going to do it, at least do it in a running machine or something like that.
Yeah.
Or means that you are going to say no. One big example, you're going to say no to do from scratch handmade cupcakes for your kids party, and then you're going to hire somebody to do it for you.
Right.
So I think that is important, that you do that, because one thing that I love about what you said is we are very good as females, especially, to go to the extremes.
Oh,
So as
yeah.
soon as we say take care of you, exercise, eat well, then they're like, I don't have 3 hours. I don't have an hour and a half for the gym, and then it's going to take another 20 minutes to 20 minutes to meditate, 20 minutes to journal, and then an hour working out, and then an hour. So then we get ourselves into that scare panic mode, and we are like, no, it's not possible. It's like even if you do 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that is better than zero. That is better than not doing it at all.
100%. Yeah. Like, I'm like, if you're that busy and you don't have the time, like the average person wastes, I read some statistic a long time ago, so it might be out of date, but the average person wastes like 45 to 55 minutes a day on social media. That's insane. That's an hour. There's your hour right there. So, like, even if you're spending half that time, that's 30 minutes. Like, so the narrative that we don't have time isn't necessarily true. It's like you said, where are we prioritizing the time? And just because we don't have an hour doesn't mean we can't do anything. Like, it's not the all or nothing. So, very good points.
Okay, we are getting close to the end of the show. Casey, it's been amazing having you here with us. Thank you for sharing from your heart. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share your journey and how it went up and down, up and down. I would love for you, before we close the show, to give us a overall advice into, if you could reach out to all the people that are watching us right now, in terms of self-care, the importance of self-care, the importance of that into your health, and how you were saying with your phrase, we repeat what we don't repair. What would be that message? And then after that, I would love for you to share how they can find you, where they can find you, if both ways, if they already are facing a scary diagnosis, that they don't want to do it alone, that they have you in their having their back, or even if they have history of, like, they are people that had mom and grandma and like genetically more propense to do diagnose, and they have this as a woke up call, and they're like, I want to do things preventively and I want to work with Casey, how they can reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what we don't repair, we repeat is such a huge statement because if we are constantly stressing ourselves out because we're not taking care of ourselves, that stress ultimately leads to suppression, repression, depression, and disease of the body. And so, if we aren't taking care of ourselves with self care, we're going to continually on that hamster wheel and burn out. And that's going to something chronic illness or something is going to happen in our lives to make us stop. So it's hugely important that we take care of ourselves, without us, like what are your kids going to do, right? So we are the nuclei of the family. So women are most of the time. And so like we need to take care of ourselves just as much as we want our kids to take care of themselves. So that's number 1 and that shows them that you're breaking the cycle, you're breaking the pattern of society that we need to do it all and be it all and not take care of ourselves because that narrative needs to change. And then you can find me on social media, on Facebook, on um, Instagram at the Happier Hustle. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Case Kang Head. And if always reach out. You like Joe, I run everything, so you'll be talking to me. And yeah, I would love to connect, even just if you say hi.
Before we go, I want to know, why is the happier hustle?
Okay, so my grandmother, she sadly passed away a couple years ago, but she would always say growing up, go find your happy. And I didn't really understand what that meant. Like, are you happy? Does that make you happy? She'd always say these things. And I was like, I realized that during cancer, like I wasn't happy. And I needed to go find it. So that's where the happy came from. The hustle was I was really into Brene Brown and she has this quote that says, you either something about hustling for your worth. And I was like, oh, I've been hustling for my worth. I don't like that. So, like, trying to get the gold star. So, that's where it came from, the happier hustle, because I don't want to hustle for my worth anymore. And I want to find my happy. And that's where it came from.
Ah, I love it. And that is such a fitting one into what we were discussing, into self-care, and as happier we are, as happier our family is, and as good we are, as good everybody around us is. Casey, thank you so much for being here with us. Please, everybody, go and make sure that you are finding her in social media, in Facebook, in Instagram, the happier hustle, and then thehappierhustle.com for her website. And then, like you see it on the screen, you can find her there in LinkedIn, if that is the platform that you are using. And then also remember to follow me at Joy Unicorn Coach, and keep sharing with us. Actually, both Casey and I will love for you to follow us and then send us a message, a private message, sharing what part of the talk resonate with you, what part of the talk make you see things different, and what part of the talk you knew but now you are seeing in a different way. Because, like I always say, these are not rocket science concepts, but they are concepts that we need to hear over and over and over and over again, because we have such a stream of information taking us in the other way. So, Casey, thank you so much for this. And for everybody else, I will see you next Friday. Thank you for being part of the beautiful community of Momfit, the Unicorn Coach. You can also hear the Spanglish. You can also hear this show in the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it.
Mhm.